Extra time.
Extra time.
Hello, everybody. 2 days to go for one of the biggest games in cricket history. The World Test Championship final starts on Friday, 18 June, between India and New Zealand. And here we are to discuss about that match with two very eminent guests. We have with us from Kolkata, India, Mr. Deep Dasgupta, former India wicketkeeper. Deep, hope you're doing well.
Oh yeah, can't complain.
I'm not able to hear you, Deep.
I said I'm very good.
Now connected to desktop U41 age 4 hours.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I don't know whether you can hear me or not.
I'm not able
Monty,
to hear you. I'll
yeah.
get the technical guys to fix that. And also from UK, I've got Monty Panesar, former England spinner. Monty, hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
So, Monty, we'll start with you. What's the mood like in England? Because this is probably the biggest game in cricket history in recent times. The World Test Championship final, a contest to decide who's the best Test team in the world. What's the mood like in England right now with regards to this match?
Yeah, look, I think everyone's really excited and looking forward to, hosting the first World Test Championships in England. But I think the weather forecast doesn't look too great. On Friday, it's 90% chance of rain. Saturday, 80% chance. Sunday, 70% chance. I think it's going to be a washout. I don't think we're going to see a World Test Championship.
What's cricket in England without some rain, isn't it?
Yeah, that's that's always the case with England. There's always rain around, even though the last couple of weeks have been really hot.
But do the teams look at the rain and plan accordingly, or just plan regardless of the rain?
No, I'm sure the India team will be there in Southampton. They'll be looking. They've been training, obviously, the last couple of weeks with really sort of hot, warm conditions. They'll probably, look, regardless of the weather, I think they'll probably go with two spinners. But they've got possibilities of playing one spinner. Probably be Ashwin, most likely, with the left-handers, in the New Zealand team. So it's going to be a shame if we end up only seeing parts of the Test match, not a full for 4 to 5 days. It'll be a real shame. It'll probably end up being a drawn sort of World Test Championship, which I don't think anybody wants to really see that.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear that, and this probably gives me a proper segue to reach Deep now. Deep, keeping rain aside, both sides, India and New Zealand, have named their 15s for the final, and it makes for some interesting debate within the Indian camp whether they go in with 3 fast bowlers and 2 spinners, and New Zealand whether they go in with Ageas Patel or not. How do you look at this combination that India and New Zealand will look to play in the final?
Right. First of all, I think
I can't hear you.
You still can't hear me?
I can't hear you. You'll need to probably unmute yourself. And
I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
No, not audible at all.
All right. I'll try and get back.
Yeah, I think you just get reconnected. Yeah. Yeah, Monty, coming to you. You already made your pick with regards to spinners for India. How would you look at the New Zealand combination? Because they have plenty of options in terms of pace, but they have just one spinner in their 15, that's Ageas Patel. What do you make of him after having seen him against England last week?
Yeah, look, I think Ageas Patel is slightly more attacking option than Santana, because when Santana bowled at Lords, he was only 10% hitting the target. How many balls were hitting the stumps? I think only 10% of his balls. While Ageas Patel, his was 20-25%. So I think he'll probably will play. He looks to attack the stumps, and you're always in the game, aren't you? If you're going to hit the stumps and the batsman slightly off concentration, if they hits the pad or turns a little bit. So yeah, I expect him to play.
Deep, bringing that question back to you about the 15s for both the sides. How do you look at the playing 11 possibilities for both India and New Zealand?
Right. I think playing 11, I mentioned before the show started that I'm going to do a show on my YouTube channel. So I'm not going to talk about the playing 11 now, but I personally think Southampton. I mean, Monty's played a lot of cricket there, and he'll tell you it's generally is a batting friendly pitch. It's usually not as quick as some of the other pitches or other venues in England. So generally, I just personally think the spinners might get some help, and that's my take on it. As far as if one spinner plays, for me, I think it's going to be Jadeja, because obviously if you don't have him, then your batting looks a little thin. If you don't have Jadeja there, not that Ashwin can't bat. Obviously, he's got 400s, 500s now. Not that, but just that Jadeja off late, the way he's batting. I mean, I think he's more of a proper all-rounder right now. But I don't know whether it also makes sense to play four seamers.
Generally, we've seen in Indian cricket history, Deep, that whenever we played four seamers in Test cricket, there's been a bit of a sameness about the attack, and we've not really done well in Test matches with four seamers. So, you reckon that should not?
If you look at the general trend, if there are out and out four seamers, or rather if you play with four seamers, chances are one of the bowlers will be under bowled. It's the same thing if you play three spinners on a turner, chances are one of the spinners will be under bowled, right? So that's the call that the Indian team needs to take, whether you want out and out four seamers, or rather than have three seamers that you're going to go out with and play two spinners. Obviously, both of them can bat.
And what do you make of the New Zealand lineup? They seem to have plenty of options. And last week they won with their second string side, much like what India did in Australia.
Again, I wouldn't say second side. I mean, they made a few changes, and all of them, apart from one player, there was only one debutant. So obviously, all the others had played for New Zealand before. So I think it's a little disrespectful saying that was a second side, whether it was India and Australia or whether it's New Zealand in the last Test match. So, but I think they're a really good side. I think they're a very well balanced side, very disciplined side, a side who actually, their strength is they play error-free cricket. They play well within their boundaries. They know exactly what they can and what they can't, and they just play within it, just making sure that they're doing their 1%ers right. I mean, we keep talking about these 1%ers, and that's what I think New Zealand is really, really good at. Just making sure, being disciplined, having a proper plan, a plan A and a plan B and a plan C, and then following the plans to the T. So that way, that's one of the reasons why, if you look at the New Zealand side or New Zealand cricketing setup, they have 6 first-class sides, right? At the most, 90, 100 first-class cricketers. But even then, they managed to keep performing as well as they have in the last, 20, 30 years, being as consistent. That just tells you the mindset or the system that they have back in New Zealand.
Just building on that point, Monty, that Deep is making, the fact that New Zealand has played 2 Test matches against England, how much of an advantage is it, considering that the Indian team only played like an intra-squad game to get themselves acclimatized to the conditions? Is that an advantage, or we start from square one on Friday?
No, look, I think it's a huge advantage for New Zealand, because they've got that momentum. The players know their roles quite well, and they've got that game under their belt where they've won a series. The confidence is going to be high. I think what India wanted to see is actually England outperform New Zealand. So then going into this World Test Championship, India will be the favourite team. So this is, you cannot take your eye off the ball with New Zealand. This is a serious team, and the top 3 batters of Indian cricket right now, the likes of Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and Pujara, they average under 35 against a bowler of Jamieson's height. He's 2.2 meters tall. That is going to pose a huge threat, for India. But India always find answers. That's been their strength all the time. Any given situation, any conditions, they seem to adapt. They find answers while they're actually, playing the game. They have a plan A, plan B, plan C. Like Deep Dasgupta said about New Zealand. I think the Indian batsmen, they are very much capable, which we lacked. The England batsmen lacked that during this 2 Test series. They're very much rigid in their thinking. They had a plan. They stuck to that method, and if it didn't work out, they'll get out. But this Indian batting lineup is such versatile. They're so flexible that they can change their game plan while they're at the crease.
And looking at the 15 that India has, there are a lot of questions about why Mayank Agarwal is not in the 15, KL Rahul and Aksar Patel, who did quite well against England in test matches at home. Monty, what do you make of India's 15?
Yeah, I think it's the right attack. KL Rahul, when he came last time, to the Tour of India, lazy footwork when he starts off with, doesn't really get himself going. He gets a good ball, he gets out. And he's done it a few times, in England. So I think, Vihari's a much better option. He's a bit more of a fighter. He kind of shown that against Australia, particularly the Sydney Test match, was a real kind of, a shining light for him. And he's obviously been at Warwickshire as well. So he's familiar with the conditions. So I think, look, this is probably, their strongest batting lineup. And the real question mark is on Rohit Sharma. We know he's pretty much the Don Bradman on Indian pitches. We would like to see a bit more of that form to be transferred, on overseas, especially, overseas pitches.
Picking on the point about Rohit Sharma, huge vote of confidence from the team management for Rohit and Shubman by naming them as the only two openers in the 15, and the other two reserve openers have not been picked. What does that tell you about the team management's thought process with regards to these two openers?
I think as far as the batting order is concerned, or batting, I think they're kind of certain what the top 7 would look like. And I don't mind sharing my top 7 because I've already mentioned that. So it's going to be for me Rohit, Shubman, Pujara, Virat, Ajinkya, that's fine, right? And obviously Rishabh at 6. And now obviously Monty mentioned about Hanuma, and to be very, very fair, Hanuma has been very, very good for India. We've got to understand that he does not play in India. He only plays away from India under really tough conditions, batting conditions. And more often than not, he's delivered when, every time India is under pressure. But I just have a feeling I'd rather go with someone like a Jadeja at number 7 than Hanuma. Because if you have to play Hanuma, you have to play him in the top 6. I mean, at number 7, somebody who's a pure batsman, I know he can bowl a few overs of off spin, but then it for me, I don't know. I just get a feeling that I'd personally play Jadeja before Hanuma, even though Hanuma has been absolutely brilliant. But unfortunately, I think I'd prefer Jadeja over Hanuma. And this would be my top 7, roughly the batting order.
The other point that I wanted to check with you is Hanuma, Jadeja, Shami, Bumrah. They haven't played Test cricket for a very long time, as in through various reasons, injuries and so on and so forth. Is that bit of a concern? And also with regards to, say, someone like an Ishant, he's been in and out, injury, form. Would that be a concern at all for you?
Concern, I wouldn't say concern, because listen, if you look at the most of the players, apart from someone like, let's say, a Shubman, okay, everyone has been to England before for a Test series, right? Everyone's played in England. Most of them are 60, 70, 80 Test matches old, right? I mean, you mentioned about Ishant, he's 100 plus. I mean, Ajinkya is 60 plus, 70 plus, both Virat and Pujara. Rohit, he's been around for a while. So, Shubman's also traveled. I mean, he's actually scored a lot of runs playing for India, even though he was batting in the middle order, touring England. So, I think there's enough experience. Yes, I mean, ideally speaking, if they had played a few games like New Zealand did, I mean, that would have been a huge advantage. But I think they still have that mental strength and the experience to fall back on and say, you know what, we've been here, we've done this before, we can do that again.
And how big a tour is this, in your view, for India's batting lineup?
So you're talking about the whole tour, right? The 6 Test matches. Yeah,
yes.
Whole tour, yeah. I think it's very important. I think it's extremely important, this tour, because there are a lot of other guys who are pushing, who are pushing for the places, right? You mentioned about someone like a KL Rahul, Hanuma Vihari, if he does not play, I mean, listen, like I said, he hasn't done anything wrong. So someone like him, obviously there Mayank and everyone else is there as well. But so personally, I think this whole tour, 6 Test matches, it might be something like the 2011. You all remember, right? 2011 was very crucial, and I think the advantage as far as India is concerned, you're playing the series in the second half of the English summer, and hopefully it's not going to be a wet summer. If it's dry, then obviously that would help the Indian cause a bit more. And also the fact that England really hasn't played good Test match cricket of late. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting series though.
And Monty, looking at the New Zealand lineup, the New Zealand batting, you've seen them last week play against England. What do you make of their batting lineup? Are the batting strengths similar in your view between the two sides?
Well, I think, like how Deep said earlier, New Zealand know their strengths and weaknesses really well. They won't go be outside of that. And Kane Williamson is really good, captain for them, calm under pressure. I think the real find for them has been obviously Conway. He's obviously, bats really well. That challenge, where, if he bats well against Indian seamers, then he hasn't come up against quality spin, against England. And that's why I feel with how many left-handers they have in that team, especially in the top order, Ashwin, may be a better bet. But then again, Virat Kohli always looks to get Durinder Jadeja in the team. He wants to always have him in that team because he provides, such more. I think that sort of, like a three-dimensional cricketer in the field with the batting. There's some comfort there, and bowling as well. I think defensively, he's probably a better defensive bowler on a slightly first or a second day pitch than maybe Ashwin. And I think that's going to be, the seamers have got to think, well, how do we look to get Conway out, and Broad bowled beautifully at Edgbaston in the second innings, where, wide of the crease, swing the ball in and nip it away. That's something hopefully the likes of Rohit Sharma, maybe Jasprit Bumrah will be looking, around the wicket straight away, to Conway, because they get him out early. This New Zealand team, they're quite vulnerable. Ross Taylor is not in great form. Kane Williamson, a lot of pressure will be, on him. So that dynamic is going to be crucial, I think, for India to win this Test match.
And Monty, have you been able to solve the mystery as to why England didn't play that spinner? Were they looking for you and you didn't answer the call?
Well, I'll be more than happy right now, to go to Edgbaston and actually just get my whites on and bowl, because it completely, everyone in England was like completely bemused. It's like, what's going on against at Lords? They were thinking, okay, first, Test match. You're probably not Edgbaston. The wicket does turn a little bit more. It isn't as flat as Lords, and with such great weather, last 3 or 4 days, it's beautiful. Sunshine. Actually, you can see Akshay Patel. He got a couple of wickets, and he's, he didn't need to turn it big. I completely. I just don't know what is going on in the England camp right now. Maybe Deep can give us a bit more insight to this, but I think they lack in a lot of common sense. So is it neck top or laptop? Where are the decisions being made?
I guess, Monty, the problem is there. I think the laptop's been used more frequently than the neck top. I think they need to get back to neck top. And take it easy with the laptop a bit. Exactly.
They have an analyst who apparently has said that, Owen Morgan is the most, statistically, an amazing captain. I'm thinking, where's the analyst? Did he get it wrong at Edgbaston? Why not play the spinner? What happened to the data there? It's all a bit of a surprise to us.
You know what? That's something very serious at this point in time, because obviously the focus is on a lot of that focus is on white ball cricket, because obviously England's doing well as well. They're the top team in both the formats. In white ball cricket, they like World Cup almost every year, but the Ashes is coming up. So for me, I think at times, in terms of Test match cricket of late, it's only been Ashes, and everything else is like a preparation towards Ashes. They've got to be serious, and I think they've got to give Joe Root a little more help. The kind of help that Morgan gets in getting his team, maybe at times, if they can help Joe Root as well. I think at this point in time, which is so unlike English cricket, because in English cricket always used to be about red ball and then white ball would be like that. Right? It seems like it's opposite now. I think they really need to get that balance going, and especially before the Ashes. It's going to be a big Ashes there as well.
Yeah. Look, just talking of. Yeah, go on, Monty.
Yeah, look, I fully agree with you, and I think this started. The lack of maybe respect for Test cricket started against India where they didn't pick their best 11. Johnny Bairstow should have, played probably all the test matches. He plays spin probably better than some of the other batsmen out there. And he's a confidence player, more games he plays, he obviously gets better. And I think that's what they're doing, They're thinking this rest and rotation policy, is about, 17 test matches they're playing this year. But they've got to respect, the highest form of the game, because if they don't, it's going to bite you on the arse like it has done, against New Zealand.
Yeah, and just building on that point about New Zealand, Deep, last year, for example, New Zealand beat India in the 2-match test series in New Zealand. And for a very long time, in both the test matches, it was even Stevens till their lower order got away from India, like most teams have over the last 3 years. Just wanted to know how much of a factor is that, not just in the World Test Championship final, but also against England, India's inability to get the lower order out.
Listen, I mean, that costed India, I think, at least 2 series in the last 3-4 years. I mean, look at 2018 South Africa and England series. I mean, it's when you look at that particular series where India lost 4-1.
Yeah.
Almost every game, apart from that one test match where Alistair Cook got those runs, apart from that, the top 5 did not really score runs in that series. It was Sam Curran, Vokes, Butler. It was the middle and the low middle order which scored runs. There was no difference as far as the top 5 is concerned. It was just that, we couldn't get the middle order, low middle order out cheaply, as you mentioned, and suddenly that 250 went on to be 350, 400. And that's what that basically was the reason. Sam Curran wasn't the man of the series predominantly for his batting, stuff. Same with South Africa. So I think, it's been India's Achilles heel as far as getting rid of the last 4-5 wickets are concerned. They've got to find a way. There's no two ways about it. I don't know what's bothering them, because obviously if they're good enough to pick up the first 5, first 6, they're good enough to pick up the tail as well. But it hasn't happened as frequently as one would expect. And
it's been a traditional problem for us. It was even during your time, even before your time, even after your time. So it seems to be a traditional problem.
But Chandresh, when Anil Bhai was there, he would come and wrap it up. Generally speaking, especially in the subcontinent, definitely no chance the tail-ender would survive against them. But even outside, Anil Bhai was very, very good and sharp with that. Not just, right through. So, but this is, I know what you're trying to say, but last 4-5 years, I think the whole thing is just magnified a little more than what it used to be.
Monty, what do you think could the issue be? Because you were good against tail as well. Why is India unable to get the tail out?
I think it's a brand of cricket that India play. Everyone knows that they don't want to fall like a deck of cards against India. India is the team right now which is ahead of all the other nations because of the depth that they have. And they can easily put out 2 sides and they'll probably be in the top 4, top 5 in world cricket right now. And they play this attacking style of cricket where then I'm sure, they tend to say that most teams, the strength of the team or how strong the team spirit is how long the tail wags. And, all oppositions want their tail to wag as long as they can because they want to show a bit of fight against India. I think most teams, they sort of, really sort of, I think, raise their performances or their fight against India. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to beat India. It just shows that you probably be a bit more resilient because this India team is street smart. They're very they like that. They know how to play the attritional cricket. They know when to attack, and they also have the discipline as well. Within their team. And in one particular performance for me was Rohit Sharma. The second test match at Chennai, first day, was probably a match-winning innings that he played on a turning, track, and he got 160. But then in the 4th test match at Ahmedabad, he got like 40 or 50 or 150 balls, something that we're not used to seeing Rohit Sharma do. So he obviously has the appetite. He wants to prove to himself that I can play that defensive innings, I can play the attacking innings, and that is actually will be required during this, huge, I think the next 6 test matches. There will be a time where Rohit Sharma will have to see out the good spell. There'll be times where nice flat deck, hot sunny conditions, and we can see him, really, take on the attack. And I think this could be the tour where Rohit Sharma could cement his spot as an opener.
And just building on that, Monty, does the fact that New Zealand beat India last year in the Test series, does that count for anything at all in the final? Both the Test matches that they beat India last year, does that count for anything?
Well, if the ICC go away from neutral pitches and produce absolute green tops, then I think, New Zealand are firm favourites. But I'm sure the ICC will be thinking, advertising for Test cricket, we need neutral pitches, flat pitches that go on the fourth day. If it's a flat deck, I think India are firm favourites, unless Jameson or the likes of Tim Southee, and India players slightly chase the ball and they sort of, don't play that disciplined innings that they are capable of doing. I think, India just a much more attacking team than New Zealand, in my opinion.
Deep, does the past record make any difference at all when you start on Friday?
No, I don't think so. I definitely wouldn't think so. I mean, because obviously you would know. I mean, you've played these bowlers before, so you obviously take what they can do. You know that, so you've got your game plan going and all based on your experiences. But I mean, I don't think they're going to worry too much about what happened in 2019 in New Zealand. But yeah, they definitely. I mean, because they've played them before, what Bolt can do, or what Jameson can do, or Tim Southee can do. Now even Matt Henry, I mean, he bowled beautifully in that second Test match. So yeah, I mean, they would be wary of all of that, but I don't think they'll be thinking too much about that Test series in 2019. I don't think so.
What do you make of the Southampton curator's statements that he's made a bouncy and pacey pitch for the World Test Championship final? Do we take it with a pinch of salt?
I would, or I have actually. So Southampton, listen, this year, having said that, I think Abbas and Abbott, both of them have done really well. That's their home ground at Taunton. So there have been traditional little more, pace and bounce on that pitch as compared to what we've seen before. But you still got, I mean, I'm not too sure. I mean, still, when you say, I mean, listen, you got to ask Monty about this. But as soon as I hear Southampton, it's like, if the sun's out, that should be a good batting deck.
Monty, what do you make of the pitch? Because the curators made some grand statements.
Look, Southampton is probably, got the most, sunshine on that wicket. And even if he's trying to produce a bouncy, pacey pitch, it's still going to be a flat deck. And I think, India played very well. If this was, let's say, somewhere in Old Trafford, at Manchester, where probably, I think rains, probably gets the most amount of rain around most of the other pitches, then probably, you can probably think, this New Zealand, I think, are slightly ahead. I think they're firm favourites, probably better suited to slightly more bouncier pitches. But Southampton, the only way I can see India lose this Test match, if they play irresponsible, if they can play within the capabilities and the cricket that they have played over the last 6 months, I think, India just needs to be smart about their decisions and also, just work out the conditions. Yeah, Jameson may bowl well. He may get the ball to nip. Just work out what's a danger shot, what isn't. That's going to be the real battle, isn't it? Is the New Zealand pacers against the Indian batsmen to post a good total. If India can, handle their pace and do well, then yeah, look, I think it's over to the Indian spinners, then, isn't it? Then that's where India want to take the game. They want New Zealand to be cornered against the Indian spinners. Then that's where they play their game at their best.
Monty, this final is also a contest between Kane Williamson and Virat Kohli in a sense, because they've been going at each other since 2008 Under-19 World Cup. How much of a battle is it between the two captains also? Because it's about asserting their supremacy as the world's leading batsman, captain, because they are probably the only two guys apart from Babar Azam to some extent who are captains across all three formats. So how much of it is about asserting their own supremacy over each other?
Yeah, look, they're two. It's like chalk and cheese with them, isn't it? You have Virat Kohli, who's extremely aggressive, in your face, emotional, and that's who he is as a natural leader. And then you have Kane Williamson, who's a lot more calmer. He's probably the best liar on a pitch. You wouldn't know if he's angry with the bowler or not when he gets hit for 4. So, that's the contrast of both of them. But I think Virat Kohli has to be that player, he's much more of a Ricky Ponting style captain, while I'll say, Kane Williamson is a much more Michael Vaughan style of captaincy. And, it doesn't suit Virat Kohli when he's a nice captain. He needs to be aggressive, in your face, emotions, full of energy. I think that's his style of leadership.
Deep, apart from the beards that the two possess, what do you think about this final means for both the captains?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge because end of the day, it's a final of an ICC event. I mean, that itself, it's a World Cup, right? And first ever World Cup. And both the teams have struggled to win ICC tournaments in the recent past. So, especially India. So, it is an ICC tournament. It's a final. And obviously, this is a format which I wouldn't say India is dominant, but India has been in the last 4 years been number one team, right, in this format. So they would want to kind of win this and say, you know what, we are the best or whatever. Same with New Zealand. I think it's for me. I think what is also important is the hype around the World Test Championship. That is so heartening to see because we're talking about how do we revive Test match cricket and get the viewers back watching red ball cricket and all that. And I think this is just heartening for all cricket lovers, and especially Test match cricket lovers, that there is this hype surrounding World Test Championship. And also the good part, because it's in a neutral venue, so you have 3 countries getting involved. It's not just India and New Zealand. You've got England also getting involved in this, and it's amazing. It's amazing for the format. It's amazing for the sport. And just to add to that, we've seen every time India's won an ICC event, right? We've suddenly seen viewership going up in that particular format. Whether it was 83 and 50 overs, whether it's again 2011 50 overs, whether it was 2007 T20, right? So, end of it all, I think it's the sport which has benefited. So if India wins, from obviously as an Indian, I would want India to win, but also from a different perspective, if India wins, I think it's only going to help the format and the sport in the long run.
Deep, you're talking about England. India, this is a record that you probably have to consider. India has never beaten New Zealand in England in any format so far, because Test cricket is something new that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Does that play on anybody's mind? Because they are almost like a hoodoo team for India in the ICC event.
I know, but I honestly don't think they're going to be too worried about it. Listen, Monty will tell you, before a Test match or any game starts, you just get into your zone and all you're bothered about, you're worried about your stuff, whether all your stuff is ready, whether you're physically ready. You try and mentally prepare yourself about the bowlers you're going to bat against. What are the conditions like? You've got your game plan, you're visualizing, you're going back to the net the next day, sorting yourself out. I don't think you have the time to kind of think about all these things. I can still think of what happened way back in 2019, which was only a year and a half ago. That might come back to you, how maybe someone got out to bowl in a certain way. Maybe those thoughts might come in, those negative thoughts might come in, but not these things like, never won or whatever. But at this point in time, I think one of the major areas where the support staff work is try and feed only positive things, making sure that the communication, the chat is positive, the numbers that are passed on, the information that is passed on, that's positive, especially the communication. You don't want to even subconsciously try and say something which has a negative connotation, So, for example, rather saying, just be wary of that in-swinger of bold, you rather say, look to play with an open stance or something. So my point is try and be as positive as possible, whether it's just communication or information.
Monty, building on the point that Deep made, how important do you think is this World Test Championship final for the format itself and for future finals or future tournaments?
Yeah, look, I think this is, Test cricket needed a bit of a revamp, and this is, that sort of, they're going to look at how World Test Championship goes against New Zealand versus India, and hopefully the weather isn't the winner and we see some, positive cricket. I think I may be a bit Indian bias here, because if India win, we know that the viewership will go through the roof for Test cricket. and around the world as well. So from that point of view, I'm thinking, maybe India should win because it helped revive the game of Test cricket around the world. But then, we all know, the best team should win who plays, the best cricket. But I think it's just great to see India in the final, and I think that's really important. But yeah, I would probably, I think if I put my sort of cricket hat on and, being a lover of the game and love Test cricket, I'd probably like to see India win it because I think it will really help the longer form of the game. And there's also question marks. They're saying, the next one should have a 3 Test, series. That could be a possibility, depending on the success. I think it's more likely to happen if India win because it just opens up, so many more opportunities, much more interest to the game of, Test cricket. So I don't know. I think I'm being a bit India favourite, aren't I? Because I know it would help Test cricket in the long run. So yeah, and spinners as well. I'm probably a big fan of Virender Jadeja and Ashwin. So I shouldn't be like this, so favouring India, but gosh, already handing out the trophy to them.
Nobody's gonna blame me for that, Monty. Don't you worry.
A 3 Test series to decide the finale means longer time for you on the field and longer time away from family. If you're doing commentary.
Listen, I would love to do that anyways. But the point is, yes, it sounds good. And maybe ideally that's what should happen. But then is it practical? My only thing is when you're talking about 3 Test series, the finals, you're talking about a month here, right? And we've already seen the ICC schedule or the calendar till 2031. Obviously, that would mean many bilateral series happening as well across all 3 formats, with the Super League in 50 overs and qualification in T20 and now World Test Championship. So I don't know. I mean, even though it sounds good, and ideally speaking, that's exactly what should happen. Even for 50 overs, ideally speaking, why just 1 finals? Why not best of 3? But is it practical? That's the big question. And will the ICC be able to fit it in the calendar?
Okay, here's my final question to 2 of you, starting with you, Deep. Putting you on the spot. India or New Zealand? Who's the winner?
Jeez, man, that's like a battle between heart and head here. My heart obviously says India, but I'd say this: if as an analyst, I'd say New Zealand maybe marginally ahead. I'd say something like 55-45, maybe. The fact that they've played 2 Test matches, not just played 2 Test matches, they've won convincingly the last Test match. The batsmen have scored runs, the bowlers have picked wickets. They've also managed to rest the senior players. Tim Southee rested. The first game, Bolt rested. People with niggles and injuries rested. So they rested players and still managed to win it. I think, and conditions. If they are going to be overcast, even if the pitch is flat, if it's going to be overcast, the ball will move around a bit, and that obviously will be challenging.
Monty, over to you. You've already made your pick, but still, your choice: India or New Zealand?
Well, I think New Zealand are bowling really well. Tim Southee, he's going to be the danger man. He tends to bowl close to the stump, swings it away, goes wide of the wicket, and then bowls it slightly fuller to get the batsman to chase after that ball. That bit, if they can negate, I think India will do well. Jameson is going to be another one with his height. How they, there's going to be the odd one that will nip off back of a length and bounce a bit higher. There will be the 2 key, I think, for me. Trent Bolt, again, swings it late. How do they play that? How do they line their bat up? Does it go towards mid-wicket? Do they fall over? Do they, keep themselves to the umpire mid-on in that kind of region where the body weight is going? Just small things like that, If they can just, get hold of that, have a firm grip of these, small little details, then I think India have got a great chance because India want their spinners to be in the game. That's going to be the key. Once India get their spinners in the game and they are dominating the game, then I think India will have a firm chance of winning this.
So Monty, आप कह रहे हैं India जीतेगा?
Only if the spinners can get an upper hand on the New Zealand batsman.
I was hoping to get you to speak in Hindi.
नहीं, हिंदी में भी हम बात कर सकते हैं. हम यही कह रहे थे that जब रविंद्र जडेजा का upper hand होएगा, India जीतेगी.
चलिए,
done.
ऑन दैट नोट बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया मॉन्टी पनेसर एंड दीप दासगुप्ता। थैंक्स अ लॉट जेंटलमैन, आपने अपना वक्त दिया, कीमती वक्त दिया। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। लेट्स होप फॉर अ ग्रेट वर्ल्ड टेस्ट चैंपियनशिप फाइनल।
Thank you.
Thank you.